You're listening to the Product Coalition podcast with Jay Stansel. This is where product mastery happens. This is where careers are made. Welcome to the Product Coalition podcast. Let's go.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Product Coalition podcast episode. Today, we're diving deep into the world of B2B SaaS, AI, and product-led growth flywheels with none other than Brendan Fortune. Now, Brendan's a seasoned product leader with a flair for driving innovative strategies in the tech space. Currently, he's Director of Product Management at Customer.io, where he's spearheading transformative changes. Now, Brendan's journey has been nothing short of remarkable, if you ask me. Starting in support engineering, transitioning into product marketing, and now leading product teams at some of the most dynamic organizations in tech, including GoDaddy and Drip. He's also got a knack for building from the ground up, having launched multi-million-dollar cloud solutions and founded Drip's product marketing team. Now, Brendan's also got some roots in musical composition that I'm sure add a creative edge to his analytical brilliance. So whether it's tackling complex challenges, transitioning teams to agile methodologies, or igniting product-led growth in the organization, Brendan brings a wealth of knowledge that will leave you inspired and full of actionable insights in today's podcast episode. Brendan, welcome to the show. So good to have you. I'm really excited to get into this topic around product sense and AI.
Me too. And that was the most generous introduction I've ever had. Got to record that, Jay. I'm going to play that every time I enter a room going forward.
A pleasure. Well deserved. So, Brendan, I touched on some of your sort of product journey in that introduction, but how would you frame your product journey yourself? You know, what is your origin story, and how you would tell it?
Yeah. So my origin story is I thought I was going to be a creative. Started in as a lot of us product managers do, thinking about like music and film and like writing books and fiction. That was kind of my high school and early college experience. And after college, I just lucked into joining this B2B SaaS startup called Finality, and now was acquired since by NetFortris. And I got to learn all about what tech is, what software as a service is, the amazing flexibility that you get to work within when you're working in software versus something that's just a little bit harder to change, a little riskier to change, like something physical. And I really fell in love. So at that first company, I was there for 6 years, and I really got to move around. I did some tech support, like you mentioned. I worked in IT. I did some product marketing, and then I got into product, and it was really fun. I have not been able to do anything else since. Just love it too much.
Love it. Passion for the craft always makes a difference.
Yeah.
Awesome. So to this topic, Brendan, developing product sense in an AI world. Before we define product sense, why did this ring out as a meaningful topic for you to want to spend some time on today?
Yeah, a lot of what I spend time thinking about at Customer.io now is how do we help multiply the impact of product managers across the organization? Because I really want to see, like, to have a product manager's mind like focused in all the different areas of our product that we need to drive. And sometimes that gets challenging because there's this concept of a project manager, which gets overlapped with product management all the time, and sometimes for good reason. But project management is just really such a tiny slice of what you can get out of a great product manager. And one of the chief blockers that I've encountered in my career from transitioning from more of that project to that product manager is your ability to synthesize lots of different customer anecdotes, market anecdotes, and like various signals, understanding how the company works. And with AI and with the macro trend of being able to take lots of qualitative information, like this podcast or a Zoom call that you're talking to a customer with, and transcribe it, now you can really accelerate the path to becoming like a product manager rather than project. And I'm so excited by that trend. So I've been doing a lot of thinking and playing in that space. It's been really rewarding.
Awesome. Let's go into this word product sense. What does product sense mean to you, Brendan? How would you define that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, when people sometimes are like, "Well, what's your gut? What's your gut tell you?" You're like thinking about a prioritization decision. Of course, we want to be data driven, and there's like, okay, what's the business case? That's how are you defining the opportunity, all that stuff, which is important. But at the end of the day, we are like emotional mammals, and even leadership teams, no matter how much they strive to be totally data driven, there is a gut that comes into play. And so for me, product sense is that gut. And the way you develop that gut is by, again, ingesting and synthesizing, not just listening to, but actually understanding lots and lots and lots and lots of individual pieces of information that are coming, again, from customers, from the market, from collaborators in your at your workplace, support teams, sales teams, people that are living with your customers day in and day out. And usually we expect it to take years for folks to develop this kind of gut or product sense because it just takes the human brain like a really long time to do that. And that's why like some people specialize in an industry because when you switch industries, you lose some of your gut, you lose some of that product sense. Not all of it, but depending on the switch, you do lose some of it. So for me, it's that kind of gut sense that really separates the truly amazing opportunity finders from those that are just making incremental improvements.
Nice, nice. I mean, AI is obviously transforming industries and so many roles in so many industries. How do you see it changing the way PMs develop this product sense, but particularly at the start of that career journey for first-time product managers?
Yeah, I think it's probably the most exciting time in the world to be a junior product manager because a lot of the knowledge gathering that is key to developing your product sense is going to be unlocked with AI. It's not fully there. You can hack it together with like a Chat GPT or Claude or one of those chat agents, but there are going to be more and more tools that are really helping product managers enable their product sense coming to market. There already are several. And what, like as a junior PM, what that allows you to do is really, again, ingest lots of knowledge very, very quickly. So instead of needing to, grind your teeth on like, oh, I just got to do like 30 customer calls, you now have to do like 5. You like do a much smaller portion of the signal gathering that you would normally do, and then you've got like a kind of consultant database basically to work with as you're trying to figure out like how should I be thinking about these opportunities, and that's something that usually only more senior PMs can do, and it's not going to be the case for long.
Nice. Can I ask, with the organization you're in right now, are you seeing this type of development for new first-time PMs coming through the organization?
That's a great question. So we, at this point, only hire at like a senior PM level. However, we hire from outside industries that do not come in with that knowledge gap, and that's where I've seen kind of the influence and impact. It's less important in our hiring criteria now that you are coming from a space that is very adjacent to the marketing automation industry that Customer IO is in. And part of the reason for that is because we have started internally experimenting with some of this AI enablement. We've got a little internal chatbot that is trained off of, so we use Slack, so it's trained off of a lot of internal Slack conversations. It's trained off our internal documentation, and it's a custom pipeline that one of our internal folks developed, just doing the embeddings, tossing them in Pinecone, and embedding it into Slack. So you can now chat with the tribal knowledge of the company, and that's something a lot of folks have started doing. But our product managers have really been leveraging that because it really drastically reduces the amount of time they need to spend trying to understand little itty bitty parts of the product, and they can really focus on, again, some of those step function changes, like the big opportunities. They spend less time digging through details. So we have seen that. The other place that I've seen it used at Customer IO a lot is in our proposal write-ups. So we do, anytime you want to bring like a new project to bear, we have a template. It's not Amazon 6-pager in detail, but it's a shorter version of that. And a lot of folks have been using ChatGPT to assist, not write the whole thing, but assist in the development of that. which has been particularly useful. It's a bit of a tangent, but I think it's a relevant one. Particularly useful in this exercise we do each week, each Friday, called rock tumbling. This is a Steve Jobs quote. I'm always slightly embarrassed. I love the concept of Steve Jobs, but he's so overquoted, so I'm always a little embarrassed saying it. But we call it rock tumbling, and the idea is, can you put all these jagged rocks into a mixer, you twist it around, and then they come out polished. So any product manager can bring a proposal to that group. It's only the PM team. We've got 8 PMs on the in the team right now, and starts with 30 minutes of reading, commenting async, and then the last 30 minutes are whoever brought the proposal forward, kind of facilitating a discussion on some comment themes, and then going off and iterating. So we used to spend a lot of time in those rock tumbles being like, wait, I'm not quite sure what you're talking about. Like, wait, oh, this is the narrative was not sequenced in a way that made it really easy to ingest. Now it is, because people are using ChatGPT to refine and clearly sequence some of their narratives. So they're actually getting better feedback because people are spending time on the content, not the communication. So that's another place that I've seen it really, really helpful immediately.
Awesome. Going back to the first time PM value opportunity, and I certainly appreciate having been a senior PM or any point in my career going into a new organization. The ability to get up to speed rapidly is a challenge, and I think time to value for onboarding PMs and many other roles in organizations is poorly measured.
Mhm.
But in this instance, I can absolutely see what you're talking about. The ability to execute and create value for the organization in your first 30, 60, 90 days can be accelerated if you're diligently using AI technology and you have the support and culture of an organization that is also agreeing to that, which it sounds like Customer IO does. But I also know there's many organizations that are still treading around the outskirts of AI within the organization and are not completely all in on giving their companies value, mission, branding, communications, log history to AI to achieve this type of thing. But I can certainly see why that would create value even for senior PMs in the first 30, 60 days.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up a really interesting topic. I know, what was I doing? I was listening to I can't remember his name anymore. It was a brilliant PM who was talking about how he's applying AI in his job. And I think he offered a course on it. And in the chat for this presentation, there were a lot of voices saying exactly what you're talking about, which is like, yeah, okay, but my boss doesn't want me to give this information up. Like, what about the security, the privacy concerns, like someone else figuring that stuff out? And my view on that is twofold, and we'll see if I'm right or wrong. One is I totally get it, like that. I understand where that the fear comes from, and there's some legitimacy to it. Two, I'm on in the camp of like LLMs are going to become a commodity. Like we're already very close to the way they are. You see that with like Llama models that are open source. And so with Apple, trying to put more and more models just like running locally on a machine, I think that trend's going to continue. So this is a great opportunity if you do work at a place where you can get that buy-in to get ahead of the pack, because makes total sense today. Year or two from now, people are going to be kicking themselves, and they'll be running their own, again, like local LLMs on their machines, and can be very private that way. And if you can get some practice before then about how best to leverage AI, build that into your workflow, yeah, I think you're gonna. It's a great time to get ahead of the pack.
Nice, and I think we're facing the same challenges we saw from like 2006 with migration to cloud. It's like we've got risk if we keep it on our servers, and we've got risk if we put it in the cloud. What were the decision frameworks people made to work through that risk and to make that commercial decision as to why going to the cloud had advantages? There'll always be industries that doesn't make sense to be in the cloud, whether that's security or privacy or whatever it may be. And I think we'll see the same in LMM and AI agent world here. Much like there's private cloud, we'll see private agents, and the patterns will follow. But I think at the end of the day, it's coming down to being just comfortable with the risk. And I think for a lot of time, it's time that that makes me feel comfortable with that risk. Seeing others do it first, and then being comfortable. I want to come back to the rock tumble analogy you gave there. How are you using AI in helping PMs identify the right opportunities to prioritize? So you've got these nice shiny rocks. Which one do you take to market first?
Yeah, so there's a couple things to dig in there. So one is like comparing opportunities once you've kind of come up with them, and then the other one is identifying the opportunities to begin with that you want to bring forward. I'll start with the identifying one because I think AI is, I mean, it's helpful in both cases, but I think the struggle that I have seen PMs encounter more frequently is with the identifying part, not the comparing part. Both are difficult, but identifying tends to be the hardest one in my experience. So this is the kind of thing that I'm starting to see. There's one product manager at Customer.io who has kind of built a brain in Notion and with OpenAI. And what he'll do is he'll take customer anecdotes. So again, maybe he had a customer call with someone, or maybe he was listening into like a sales call that was recorded. We use Gong, so recorded on Gong, and he wants that transcript. And he'll put them into this little Notion database. And then he has an automation set up that he's built entirely himself that will take those things and again convert them into embeddings. And then he's got has a little chatbot. So it's a way to start building out almost like your brains. Human brains are susceptible. I mean, everything's susceptible to bias, but LLM's a little bit less so than in terms of like recency bias and some things like that can hold more information with this embeddings concept. So he's able to use that so that after he's gathered a bunch of signals, he can literally ask like, hey, I've been talking to a lot of customers about this area, like maybe it's like mobile SDKs and like what are the biggest opportunities for us in that space to get ahead? Give me 3 ideas. And it'll then give those 3 ideas. And the most useful part, I think, in that sort of experience isn't the initial 3 ideas, it's the conversation that follows up. Because you're rock tumbling even with a chatbot, right? It's like a little bit earlier form and version of that. So I expect to see that increasingly leading to some really interesting ideas that are non-obvious. Then you have to figure out how to build alignment around those ideas, and that can be challenging. One of the problems with bringing new ideas is the leadership team is not prepped for that. You gotta approach that carefully, and I don't think AI is amazing at that yet. So there's the identifying part, and then optimizing and choosing. I have done this only a few times, but if you say like, I'm trying to decide between these 3 things. Here, let me describe my customer to you. Like, let me describe the business to you. And if you're depending on the business, OpenAI already knows if you're using that already. And Customer.io qualifies there. So, and then it'll say like, help me compare which one I should prioritize or how. Oftentimes when I'm doing that, I already have a framework that I've been thinking about for how to prioritize. But it's useful to see what like this LLM will come up with in terms of going beyond just like a value cost sort of framework, which is really what it boils down to a lot of the times at the end of the day. But that's not the nuance that you want to be able to tackle. Like for example, we are thinking about how to deploy AI in Customer.io as a product. And one of the things that we're looking at is the amount of trust required for someone to engage with an AI feature. So for example, like, help me generate an email subject, pretty low trust. I want you to automatically just like personalize this message and just send it out to customers. Like, I trust you, very, very high trust. So we're starting kind of with some of the low trust to high trust things. And that's a prioritization framework that we're kind of considering. So those are kind of 2 ways to get at the same thing. You've just got like your partner, like a rock tumble partner in ChatGPT to make your human rock tumbles even more effective.
Nice. You remind me going back probably 10 years ago now. I spent a little bit of time as an innovation coach in a corporate environment in Australia, and as we were bringing leaders through workshops and bringing them through idea development and discovery, essentially, one of the moments we took in the day was think about this problem and what would would Woody and Buzz do in this scenario? Like, try and come up with a fresh perspective on this problem space, or what would you do after 3 glasses of wine to solve this problem? And for
Yeah.
me, that's the value AI is giving me. It's given me alternate perspectives more rapidly than me going and asking other people. Um, Now, where I think sometimes there's too much trust, maybe from the product managers to the AI, is they forget that the perspectives AI is giving you are only plausible. They're only as plausible as you going and asking another human what
Mhm.
the solution could be, and therefore it's too easy to trust the AI. Because it sounds so good. It sounds like, oh wow, well, yeah, we should do that because that's so well put. Um,
Yeah.
but it's a fascinating space, and I absolutely agree that the ability for AI to give you fresh perspectives, essentially look at the problem from multiple facets incredibly rapidly, is going to help product managers make better prioritization decisions. Coming back to combining the data with the perspective of the PM. Um, Okay, let's move it now to creativity and what humans are bringing into the conversation. How you spoke earlier around first-time PMs being able to capture all of the signals, particularly rapidly through AI agents and chat, etc., and being able to distill and filter out the signals from the noise in large amounts of feedback. But from your perspective, Brendan, how do you balance the power of AI-driven insights with the value of human intuition and the creativity of product management, which I like to think of is still a blend of art and science?
Yeah. Yeah. I was looking at some of the marketing materials for a company called Mixmax, which many folks may have heard of. It's a sales automation tool. And one of the vision pieces that came up there is we want sales to be fun. And that's not something you necessarily associate with fun. So similarly, when I think about AI and product, there's in like how the human fits in. We want product management to be fun, and it's not always fun when you are feeling like you have to really defend an opinion, like build a huge solid case, build tons of alignment. Like that can be feel pretty toilsome, and sometimes you can feel pretty helpless in your ability to kind of communicate an idea. So the value of the human, I think, in making product management fun in an AI world, I think, is the uh, distilling the signal from the noise from the signal that you're already getting from AI. There's still some part of that, but instead of just dealing with raw data, you're dealing with something that's a little bit more synthesized. And at least for me, that's often more fun. I would rather, like, I feel like I can move faster. I'm spending less time being like, oh, this is a really interesting anecdote, but wait, what was that customer? Oh, they're not really a target customer. Da, da, da. In some of that stuff, like, is, yeah, feels more like toil than fun. So I think the human is still absolutely, we're going to be critical in figuring out how to decide which opportunities to pursue, which ones to refine. It's not going to give us all of those answers. However, I think that PMs are going to spend more time doing the kind of things that like directors do now, which is like, I got a bunch of different opportunities. Like, which ones should we go deep on? Which ones shouldn't we? Rather than, again, some of the toil work that can really eat up a product manager's day. I also think there's a there's an aspect to data-driven decision making that AI can power outside of like, hey, help me generate opportunities and like write up docs. That I think also is going to like require a human element. So, common example that I've seen at different companies is maybe have like this gut feel that like, I think the UX just isn't that good. Like our UX isn't great. Like we need to fix it. And then you'll talk to your product leader and they're like, yeah, great. So what really is it? Like, what should we fix? What's the problem? Well, let me give you an example. And they're like, yeah, it kind of sucks, but it's a small thing. And you're like, no, it's a death by 100 cuts sort of thing, like, or death by 1,000 cuts. Like, and they're like, yeah, I mean, maybe, but like, look at this big feature thing that we should be going to build, blah, blah, blah. And one of the other, I think, things that AI is bringing to bear already is identifying themes. So let's say you wanted to bring data to that conversation. let me prove to you, but like there's going to be major impact if we were to go and solve a lot of these things. You could again aggregate feedback from lots of different sources, assuming that you've got feedback coming in. Not all products do. Customer IO, we have so much. And you again can feed them through AI and you can start tracking quantitatively themes. How much feedback are we getting where people with a negative sentiment are talking about using our software? And then you can make that like a key result, which leaders often love. And you can make this a trackable thing that you're going to like invest energy and you will see some payoff. You can frame it in terms of revenue. The top people that are complaining about usability are also responsible for the most revenue, for example, which sometimes is the case. Like it's the power users who really are trying to grind on it. I think the human is needed when you're trying to figure out what to track over time, like how to build that alignment and really pitch the case. And AI will enable it.
Nice. There's when you was talking there about the making that creative choice. One of the ways I've been talking to PMs that I've been sort of coaching, mentoring around this is taking them through what was introduced to me actually when I first got into AI 7 years ago, which is the Data, Information, Knowledge, Wisdom Framework, DIK.
Mm,
And there's this path where you start with data, progresses and can be turned into information. That at a mature level can be knowledge, and knowledge, when mastered, becomes wisdom. And that's really when you can see the future. And
yeah,
where they're struggling sometimes is employing tools or putting together business cases that empower them to take large amounts of data, take it to AI tools to give them information.
mm,
And what I've been sort of guiding them through is, well, at the moment you're looking at that data and you're having to sift through it to try and create the information yourself. The outcome will be very similar, whether that's you doing it or a machine doing it, but the productivity to get to that point will be accelerated a lot more and also a lot more predictably, because you might have a bad day and you're biasing certain feedback items from customers that you just happen to love over ones that you don't, etc. And so that's been something that I've helped sort of guide people through is like there's a data to information bridge that has to be crossed. If you're doing it with a human or you're doing it with an AI, both comes with pros and cons. But on the AI side, nowadays it's going to pay for itself in terms of the productivity it's going to get you back. And as a human, you still get to apply your creativity to turn the information into knowledge. And
yeah.
until we've got those really incredibly embedded AI agents that know every corner of our organization, like a human would do, the knowledge creation is still there in the product management space.
Yeah.
So that's a piece that when I think about protecting IP and where product managers can still add art and science into the day and the creative process of product management, that's where I see that it's this there's this harmony between AI and human that builds this bridge between data, information, and knowledge.
I'm totally going to steal that. That is so much better than what I was. So much clearer than what I was talking about. And wisdom is kind of like that product sense piece too. Like it's all kind of building up towards that. That's cool.
Yeah, like wisdom, I think, is that thing that we all strive for in our roles.
Yeah,
You're those that are really passionate about their craft. If you've not got a passion, you'll stick in the knowledge category. You'll know stuff, but do you want to be able to really foresee the future? You can just have that sense that you're talking about. That actually, if we go on this path, I can foresee six steps down the line with the wisdom I've accumulated that X or Y will happen. Brendan, I'm going to take us now over back to acceleration for product sense development. How do you see this impacting the hiring process for first-time PMs? Because there is this ability to practice with AI that's open to anyone to build up product knowledge, capacity, sense, even before you've landed a PM role. So how do you see AI impacting the hiring process for first-time PMs?
yeah. It's a great question. It's already impacted customer IOs, and I'm sure others. We often do writing exercises as a remote company, and let me tell you, we're getting AI generated responses that have changed our approach. So we've switched to a working session sort of model now, where there's a little bit more engagement rather than biasing mainly off of the writing. I think when it comes to like accelerating, trying to think of the best place to go with this one, because there's a few different tacks we could take. I think when it comes to accelerating your abilities as a product manager, knowledge is one, like you were calling out, data, information, knowledge. But there are also some like raw skills that AI is not going to help you build, even like if you're doing an interview prep with one of those chatbots. And it's that ability to turn information to knowledge, I guess, that is a little bit harder to fake. So you can have something that tells you, right, here is some really interesting opportunities. How are you going to think about comparing them? How are you going to think about defining the business opportunity? And how are you going to know if you just ask, ChatGPT to give you that answer, if it's good or not? I have definitely run proposals through AI that sound great, like you were mentioning before, and I'm like, I would never bet on that. I would just never do it. So I think there's some level of skill that as a junior PM that you're coming in, you still have to acquire, but that knowledge piece, which is harder to get, it takes longer, I think, to acquire, becomes a lot simpler. So how are you analyzing data? What mental models are you bringing to bear when you are making decisions? It's okay to propose a decision, but when you're actually making a decision, executing that decision, following through with that decision, there's so many little micro decisions that you get involved with along the way. How do you know how much data you need to make one of those decisions? How do you know when it's too much and you've kind of hit analysis paralysis? That's stuff that I haven't seen AI really help with yet. And even in like a chat prompt, like interview prompt, you won't get to. So there is, like, in the hiring process, I think it's going to be less about knowledge, and it's going to be more about it's going to be less about information. I want to keep using your framework. Less about like what information do you have accessible, and more about testing, like, how do you turn that information into knowledge?
Nice. Sticking with the first time PMs, if this is leveling the playing field now, when it comes to getting started and moving either up the ladder in terms of just your competence or up the ladder within your career, what new skills or areas of expertise do you feel that senior PMs now need to master, as junior PMs can more rapidly build foundational skill sets that are required to be a product manager?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm still kind of developing my own thoughts on it, but here, what I feel pretty confident about is more. And by that I mean, once you've got those decision making skills, before you could like maybe manage one area as a senior PM. Now we're going to be expecting more from you. You could do multiple now if it's really about like knowledge acquisition, and you've got like the ability, the skills to make decisions quickly, to build alignment effectively. You can take more on, and I think we're going to start seeing a down leveling in expectations. So for example, at Customer IO, one of the defining differences between like a senior PM and a staff PM is the amount of areas that you are owning as a product manager, defining opportunities for. And I don't know that we're quite there yet, but we're very close. I would say like months versus years away from starting to see kind of an expectation that even a senior PM is able to handle at least two teams without being promoted to a staff. Staff will be even more scope.
Nice. So yeah, definitely increasing that capacity. To answer this question myself, Brendan, I'd love your thoughts on this. For me, when I look at the employment turn down over the last couple of years, particularly in the product management space, those that have survived that have a common theme, and that is commercial knowledge development. Product management over the last 10 years for me has been too heavily around the technical side of it. And talking about at the start of the podcast, playing some project management roles along the way, like all about master Scrum, master Agile, master the tech stack, master solution design, master the discovery process. But the piece that feels underweighted over the last 10 years for me has been the commercial acumen of product management. Truly understand how the books of the organization are put together, and level yourself up as a senior to move and grow the gap between you and the juniors and mids around you by building up your financial competence, so you can have a proper sit down conversation with a CFO and talk about how your product's having an impact on the revenue, or you're driving down costs, or you're improving the EBITDA, and you actually care about the PE ratio of the company. For me, that's the piece that is still missed far too often by senior PMs who want to continue moving but don't really know where the gaps are in their knowledge right now. That I would love to see them using AI to progress that knowledge.
Yeah, and I mean, what a great and specific point. I think there's a PM I was working with just a couple quarters ago, and one of the challenges was exactly what you were talking about, which is like you need to build, we call it business acumen. There's a billion different ways, like financial acumen, commercial. But yeah, what a great point. Understanding like things like rule of 40, or what is it that the C-suite really cares about? What do those things actually mean? And you can, again, AI can teach you these things pretty quickly as well. Makes it a lot faster than reading a book and getting an MBA. So yeah, I think that one's really true. What I was wondering if you've seen as well is some of the, I don't want to call it politics, but that's probably the easiest way to, most resonant way to frame it, of building alignment. So I think we all know, or it's been my consistent experience, that like the best ideas don't necessarily get prioritized or get the most resources or whatever. There is a human element to that. It's like a relationships thing, and it's also a storytelling thing. And that's another skill base that I don't really think AI helps with, because that's the branding part. You like want to brand the themes and the opportunities that you want to pitch so that they're memorable. You want other people to start talking about them across the organization. Particularly, the more employees you've got, the more critical this skill is. And I see a lot of product managers, again, who are very strong technically, and they get in this rut where they're like, no, but it's the right idea. Like if you just understood all the details like I did, you would see. And unfortunately, they're missing the point. The details actually are not what matter at that time. It's the emotional capital, it's the trust battery we talked about at Customer IO. And I think that's absolutely a skill. So that's another thing I'd push senior PMs to focus on.
Yeah, I think you're on a good point there. Understanding political capital and understanding the value of it can be underestimated. I think unless you spend a lot of time in one organization and really build that up over a 5-year period, but with obviously a typical 2 to 3 year cycle on PMs moving around, it's an underweighted attribute, and therefore it's hard to. You're always starting again when you bring your political capital back down to zero because you move roles. You're starting with, I love the definition of a battery there. Your battery's flat and it will take some time to build that up. And that is obviously an incredible human to human activity that AI, until it really knows the human on the other side of the desk to you incredibly well, it's going to really struggle to be able to give you the value that you'd like to have equivalent to that of a human giving you that.
Yeah. There's one other thing that comes to mind, but I don't know if we have time for it.
Let's do it.
Tell me. Okay. The other one, which is uncommon, at least in my experience, to think of as like a development for product managers in particular, but one that I think is aligned with this like political capital a little bit, is you want to work on, I'll call it mental health, but really it's that ability to feel grounded when you're discussing. And a lot of us are not particularly in touch with how we're feeling, like when we're playing that role as an employee. And if you want to find good ways to build political capital, the person who's able to really stay kind of grounded in their body, it's more of a feeling than like words that you say, is unique and highly valued. And it's underappreciated. I haven't met a lot of people that think of it that way. So one thing that I tell PMs, which is like a little controversial, is I'd ask them how many times throughout your day do you find yourself feeling like that, kind of like tensing up? And if they're like, I have no idea, probably none. Okay, like try for the next day, pay a little closer attention to it. Like every hour, just check in and say like, how am I feeling? And oftentimes what I find is people are, at least when they're engaging with other humans, particularly like bosses or peers, that does happen. And for those folks, I do recommend some sort of therapy, which I know is like individual therapy, not even related to like work. It's just how like understanding the things that trigger you, understanding the things that make you reactive versus responsive. You kind of lose control of what you're gonna do next, and you maybe cycle and kind of start to obsess on things. And for senior PMs, again, you can have the technical skills to build a data case. You can have good relationships with certain folks, but there's a sustainability element that just doesn't follow through if you don't also work on your own mental health. And I have not, my wife forced me into therapy like 5 or 6 years ago. And at first I was like, and now I'm like, what a fool. I should have started that so much earlier. If you can find a good person to talk with and work on, that improves your political capital, and that also improves your quality of life, in my opinion. So kind of a weird one, maybe controversial, but I think product managers who need to deal with a lot of people, it's particularly high leverage to focus on.
I think it's a really good point to bring to the conversation, and I appreciate you doing so, Brendan, because I think there's a stigma attached to it, but also because it's something often not spoken about. People assume most people aren't in therapy, or lots of people aren't, and they'd be surprised that how many people around them in similar roles throughout the industry or the country are going through self-discovery, self-awareness exercises to find that center that enables them to be their best. And it's an investment in yourself. So I think that's a very valuable point to bring to the conversation. Thank you. Brendan, this has been a pleasure of a conversation. I love where we've taken the episode today, from developing product sense as a first-time PM to staying ahead on the game as a senior PM, and some real valuable tactical advice of what you've been doing or are doing by leveraging AI and combining that with all of the things that give you awesome humans to be around on a day-to-day basis. It's been a fascinating episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Loved it.
Pleasure. For the audience watching, I hope you've also enjoyed this time with Brendan and myself. If you'd like to know more about Product Coalition, please simply head over to productcoalition.com. Until the next episode, thank you very much.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Product Coalition podcast, hosted by Jay Stansel. Got questions or want to explore more topics? Connect with Jay on LinkedIn or join the ever-growing Product Coalition community on Substack. Thanks for listening.